Hi, everybody. We're just going to do a quick sound check to make sure that you guys can hear Jamie. Jamie, can you please speak?
Test test 1 2. This is Jamie.
Can you guys let us know in chat if that's okay?
Cool.
Quiet. That says you're quiet. Uh, okay, awesome. It seems like most people can hear him. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at VirtualCon 2014. I have the founder of VRcade here, Jamie, who's going to speak about his virtual reality platform. Jamie holds the high-level vision and low-level detailed information about the form, function, and future of the VRcade. He has the will to create and improve the VRcade platform, which introduces the world's first true athletic esport and will bring VR competition to the world. He will carry the VRcade forward by bringing about new paradigms in game design as well as manage the production of what will likely be the future of gaming. He loves setting new standards for what a quality virtual reality experience should be, pushing beyond limitations with a good team and introducing something bigger and better than anything ever before. Since he was 6, he has been creating game concepts. He and Dave met on the Nintendo Street team almost 10 years ago and later jointly founded Mind-Games Intermedia and started designing and prototyping their own games, eventually leading to the release of 2 small iPhone music puzzle games. In his spare time, he's an avid gamer, a drummer, and video producer. And with that, I'll hand it off to Jamie. Welcome, Jamie.
Great, thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so a little bit of my background on top of that. Mostly it focuses around two things. One is experience creation and the natural human-to-machine interface. So if you were in the last talk, you heard me briefly touch upon this, the idea of having kind of this infinite intention of in your head of what you want your on-screen character to do or what you want to do. And the current problem is that you have to transfer that infinite intention down into your 10 fingers and your wrists and transfer them onto a gamepad that has plastic buttons, which then get converted on a circuit board and pumped into a game. That it doesn't exactly carry over what you want to do. And my big mission was to find a way to do that. And long story short, it turns out that virtual reality is the answer. And some of the early concepts we had actually didn't focus on virtual reality, and I won't bore you with those. But it was a long, winding road to get here, and we focused on what it would take to create the perfect VR experience. Don't worry about cost. Don't worry about getting into people's homes. What would it take to do that? And it turns out it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of infrastructure. It takes a lot of space and a couple of other things. So we thought, why don't we build this thing and let people come and use it? That way we can get around the whole cost barrier, the trying to understand how I'm going to assemble my own VR system and all that jazz. And oddly enough, we ran into some friction with VR enthusiasts who said, well, what you guys are doing, I could basically do in my house with a Kinect and an Oculus, and until you try it, you don't realize that you can't. There's a lot of limitations with trying to create the super robust natural interface inside your home. It's terribly convenient, of course, to have it in your home, but when you're talking about hanging cameras and running wires and having omnidirectional treadmills and high-powered computers and headsets and all of this stuff just for one user to simulate being in VR. Never mind, what are you going to do with that space when you're not in VR? Is your wife going to let you keep that stuff up? How do you get your friends to play? How do you get your family to play who has no interest in games at all? Who's making software for your cobbled together platform? How well is it going to work in your living room, your dining room, or your garage, wherever you stick it? All of these problems are on top of how do you get amazing tracking? How do you get wireless? How do you get low latency? So by taking it out of the home, we've solved pretty much all of those problems. And there's a lot of other interesting benefits that you get with bringing it out of the home. One is that it's a social experience again. So when we were all growing up, we had the arcades, and you would go and you would put your quarter down to play, Super Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat 3 next in line, and you might not have instantly made friends, just because you're fighting someone in an arcade cabinet, but it was a social experience. It was a place where you could go and there'd be like-minded people, and I wanted to bring that feeling back. So our ambition is to create the world's first true athletic esport. And in order to do that, we need tons and tons of space. We need the ability to track many users at once. We need to be able to track props. We need to be able to drive many wireless signals. And it's a real challenge, especially in 2010 when we started. Nothing like this existed. There were no tools, there was no software, there was no workflow, there was no infrastructure. We talked to the people who track players on the NFL field, and they were like, yeah, we can track you down to, a couple millimeters with accuracy and across a huge space. It's going to cost you $7 million, because if we give you a discount, then how in the world are we going to give a discount to the NFL? What would we say to them? And it was an absolute joke. We talked to other people, and they'd say, yeah, we can track your position. It's really, really fast, too. It's within 3 inches of accuracy and at 200 milliseconds. And we've already done our research at that point. We're like, that's not going to work at all. And we actually gave up for a long time until we found an optical solution that would scale to about 13,000 square feet. And that's when we knew that we had it. And so now we have this solution that is currently in the lab that I'm sitting in Seattle right now, is 30 feet by 30 feet. And it's a compelling, interesting, exciting, powerful, unique experience platform that doesn't exist anywhere else. We've done a couple of different experiences from target range, which is our main workhorse, to magic wands, to roller coasters, to haunted houses, and all of them are just knock your socks off, never want to go back to a dual analog control stick again. And in order to realize this vision of multiplayer, we really have to figure out the single player experience. We really have to figure out, lens correction and everything, because again, we can't rely on other people to make our own stuff. For some of it we can, but let's talk about the Oculus for a second. We couldn't even use the Oculus if we wanted to. And that's the number one question we get. Are you guys using the Oculus? Back when Palmer Luckey had his Kickstarter, we were talking to him well before then, and we were like, here, get us on the list. We want 2 of your Oculus systems as soon as they're done. And we got tired of waiting. So Dave, our engineer, just built his own, and it was fantastic. When we got our Oculus, we were like, wow, this is uncomfortable. The pixel density is a real problem, and the eye cups are digging into my eyes. This is not a good experience. And then if you look in the user agreement of the Oculus, they're like, you can't modify it, you can't make money off of it, you can't do any of this stuff, and it's all the stuff that we wanted to do. So we had to continue making our own head mounts. So we make our own head mounts. We make our own weapons. We have a bunch of different custom pieces of software, and it all results in, don't worry about how it works. Don't worry about how much everything costs. Don't worry about the specs of the computer. You just walk in and have this experience that you can't get anywhere else. And one of the coolest things is how incredibly universal the system is. We'll have moms who come in and we'll say, okay, it's your turn to play. And they'll be like, no, that's stuff my kids do. I don't play games. And we just call BS. We're like, none of that matters. Just try it. And they try it, and they absolutely love it 100% of the time. It's the easiest thing to do, completely natural, and it's going to be a challenge for us to kind of break down that barrier of anyone can play. Seriously, anyone can play. Forget controllers, forget dual analog sticks, forget mouse and keyboard, forget all of that stuff. You can play because it's a natural human interface, and people are just thrilled when they see that. But on top of the challenge of trying to cater to hardcore VR enthusiasts at home who insist that they can get the same experience at home, you're also competing with that mindset of, it's a game and it's just not for me. So we have a lot of work ahead of us to do in terms of education, but the platform is built. It's working. We have a number of deals that we're working on in place that I can't tell you about. I really wish I could, but serious deals that will get VRcades out near you in relatively short time, and you'll be able to try them for yourselves. And the really cool part about the VRcade, among the wireless and custom head mount and everything, prop tracking, is that it's all a growing, evolving platform. And as new technology comes out, we take out the old and put in the new, and the whole experience is better for it. New graphics cards, new CPUs, new head mounts, new lenses, new cameras, new props, we're able to take out anything that's old and put new stuff in its place, and the thing just grows. And because we're not sending millions of these things out into the wild, it's very easy to update a handful of them, of these facilities, and let people come by and use them. So the question of whether or not you can survive with a big infrastructure, whether or not you can charge prices that are easily accessible to anyone for gaming, while making sure to keep the lights on, was a big problem. If you do the math, the prices that we wanted to charge wouldn't even cover the cost of the infrastructure, let alone staff and R&D and everything else. So what we've done is we've used the exact same platform for a multi-purpose use. We're using the platform for architectural visualization, 3D model visualization, post-traumatic stress disorder therapy, police, military, and fire training. The list just goes on and on and on, and museum exhibits and everything. And by doing that, we're able to justify that during the day it's all serious stuff, but during the night, the exact same building, the exact same facility becomes a VRcade, and it's a place where you can go and game. Like I said, my big ambition is to do the world's first true athletic esport, and it's incredibly compelling, especially once you've stepped out of the VRcade for the first time, because you understand everything that you do carries over. You can get on one knee, you can hide behind boxes that aren't really there, you can dodge fire, you can move, you can run, you can jump, you can do all of this stuff. And we say, right now you're in a 30-foot by 30-foot square. Imagine 13,000 square feet. And you instantly start to understand that you get a very natural, very relatable human interface. But man, changing gravity, changing physics, being able to see through walls, changing your size, power-ups on the fly, the things you just can't do in the real world, you're now able to do, but it's you inside of there. And there's a lot of tying in with kind of the at-home experience as well for this whole VR athlete thing. For instance, you could have a free-to-play game at home, and this game, you craft weapons and you craft gear and you fight and you're an experience, and you can travel all over the world, but there's a section of town that's always locked. It's the Coliseum, and it says VRcade on the door. And the only time you can get in there is when you get up and you go to the VRcade, and it's on a Friday night, and those tournament doors are open, and you're able to actually compete with real people in real time, and use all the gear that you earned to fight real people. So you get there with your gear and your account, and you say, all right, I'm going to have one for this game, and you bring all your stuff, and you're like, cool, I'm going to be fighting this guy in 15 minutes. I'm going to go look through his inventory. I'm going to see what he has. I don't know if he's going to be wizard class or knight class or whatever, long range, short range, and then you equip yourself. And when you step into your grid space and you have your gear on, you're actually holding that sword, and you're actually like throwing those fireballs, and you're actually having a social experience with someone, and you're actually legitimately playing and running and jumping and moving. And it's unlike anything else that you can get. And that's our big differentiator, is that not only do we give you the space by which to move around and the technology that you will not be able to afford and the custom software that's built exactly for this facility, but we do things like structure entire events and tournaments and leagues and teams and brands and sponsors, all in the name of creating this very natural, robust interface. And so that's my big ambition, and the management team here understands that, and that's exactly where we're going. And I really wish I could name off some of these partners that we're partnering with, because it's super, super exciting. But we believe that that's kind of the next wave, the next generation of entertainment is kind of what we're doing at VRcade, and it complements what's happening in the home very strongly. So there's a lot of questions that kind of come up in general. I'm going to answer just a couple of them just to see if any of these are on your minds, and then after that I can just take questions. This is all a very high-level overview, so I haven't gone into much detail about the nitty-gritty, but one of the questions is, how do you stop people from walking through walls that aren't there? Or a side question is, why don't you put up walls in the capture volume? Imagine a big 13,000 square foot, 150 feet long by 75 feet wide room. That's essentially your play space. It's lined with cameras on the perimeter. You wear your head mount and your surround sound headphones, and you wireless. You run around with your gun, and you do whatever you want. And there are no walls, which means if you're in the game and you want to walk through a wall, there's nothing physically stopping you. However, your character is still privy to all the physics of the game world. So if you want to walk through a wall, go ahead. You're just going to get a notification that you need to return back to the game, and your avatar is going to be stuck on the wall. And it's a very powerful reminder that it feels like you could probably cheat, but you can't, because we saw it coming and we've programmed safeguards in against that. So that's the answer for how do you stop people from walking through walls, and it's the very brief answer. The other answer is, why don't you just put up walls? Why don't you just put up real walls or real blocks or real obstacles? And it's because we're using optical tracking. And obviously, if you had all of that stuff, you're going to be blocking markers, and you're going to have tons of liability issues. The insurance companies already don't know how in the world to deal with this because they've never had to do it before. So the rooms will always be wide open, and by and far, people really respect virtual walls and virtual cliffs. It's hilarious, as I'm sure some of you have experienced yourselves. So it's all programmatic. It's all understanding that people are going to break the rules, and we got to be there to counteract it. So it's that question, and then the other question is, why aren't you sticking this in the home? Why can't we have this in the home? And there's a bunch of reasons. So far, if we're going to talk about the technological ones, it's number of cameras, coverage of cameras, the ability to look at your human body from so many different angles, and to be able to track everything you're doing without the hindrance of wires, to be able to have an incredibly fast update rate, to be able to get data to and from, to be able to do all sorts of just technical boring stuff. And anyone who's in the hardware business who's trying to sell software will tell you, the harder you make it to buy and configure hardware, the less software you're going to sell. And it's exactly true of VR. Oculus is the closest thing to a standard that exists out there in terms of VR. But outside of that, if you put something together on your own, you're on your own. And Capcom's not making something for your Cyberith / Kinect setup. You have to have a standard, and that's the other thing that we provide. So having it out of home gives it that standard. It also gives you access to technology that you do not even want to think about how expensive it is, because it gives you a level of performance that you currently can't get today. I'm convinced that someday in the home there's going to be amazing tech, and it's going to do a lot of the stuff that we're doing in the VRcade today. But the one thing that you won't get is space. And I have yet to see or even conceive of a device by which you can fool the brain into thinking it's running or ducking or rolling on the floor when it's actually standing in one spot. And until you feel the freedom of something like our system, you might not completely understand why a WizDish or an Omni or a Cyberith virtualizer or a Virtuosphere, why they don't cut it. But they just don't. And by having that space, by having the freedom to move and not worry about running into your cat or tripping on your couch or any of that, it really, really breaks down a lot of walls in terms of what you can do potential-wise. So those are some of the most common questions that we get. I'm not sure if anyone has asked any questions yet. I'm going to check in and see if are there any questions from the audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jimmy. The first question is, you actually have a Halloween Kickstarter going on right now in which you're going to be simulating a haunted house. And you actually have some pretty cool tiers where if someone actually donates enough money, they can get their face implemented into the game. Can you talk more about the Halloween Kickstarter and the tiers and what you're trying to accomplish with that? Because it seems like you've partnered with a museum, right?
Right, yeah, we partnered with Experience Music Project, which here in Seattle is kind of a big deal. Awesome folks to work with. And we came to them saying that we wanted to do a Halloween event. And the technology is the same core VRcade technology that we did for their Doctor Who celebration last year. And this year it would be a haunted house, and it would be a step up from that. It would be an expansion, but fundamentally the same, where a user is tracked in space, and now it's 4 users. And originally we weren't going to do props. We weren't going to do flashlights and wands because people are going to hit each other and be terribly scared and accidentally smack all sorts of stuff, and we didn't want that. We changed the configuration around a little bit, and now we are able to give users flashlights and magic wands and whatever else we want to give them And so it becomes a very personal experience. You start out in this kind of town square, and you're looking around and you're getting acclimated to VR, and you realize you have a flashlight and you're able to point at things. Then you hear a commotion in your surround sound headphones, and you look over and there's a voiceover speaker that introduces himself as a doctor, and he says, I need some help with my experiments. My last patient left me abruptly, and before he begins speaking to you, you clearly hear the sound of a woman dying, and it's obvious that she's dead. And he invites you to walk into the door, and so you're able to walk into this space, which then triggers another scene, and then you're able to turn around and reuse the capture volume that you were just in to now explore this very run-down, decrepit hospital. And man, just having the flashlight, having the triggers, and having it be that terrible experience where the doctor's talking to you and you can't tell if you quite trust him yet, and being able to just move and completely forget that it's a piece of technology, completely forget that it's some kind of a game, completely forget that you're in an office building in downtown Seattle, is really, really powerful. So for the Nightmare, we call it the Nightmare Machine. For the Nightmare Machine, we want to have 4 users at once having this kind of experience and doing things that you just can't do in the real world, like having the floor come out from underneath you, and hallucinations that none of the other players see, and a very cool level of interaction where you're able to actually kind of defend yourself and battle and make it kind of gamey. And as far as the head scanning goes, we spent a long time looking for a solution by which we would be able to sit you down, scan your head, and put it inside the Nightmare Machine, inside of a jar with this apparatus that the doctor stuck you in. And we were going to have, the backers of our Kickstarter line the walls of this of this doctor's lab, and we got it working. And it's really, really creepy to see yourself in VR, and to see the heads of all of your friends. And we can, because it's VR, we can add all sorts of functionality, such as we replace all the eyeballs in everyone's heads with our own eyeballs that have AI that look at the 4 participants as they're going through the experience, and you can make all sorts of crazy sounds and animations, and it's you, and you see it, and you instantly see the geometry in the face, and you're like, that's me. That's amazing. And combining the two, both the haunted house and the face scanning, leads to a pretty incredible experience.
All right, awesome. It seems like it's not just virtual reality, but you can augment stuff as well. Like, say you can take an asteroid or a comet and then apply different techniques to it to stimulate it from stopping hitting Earth, or even better, mine it and bringing the minerals back to Earth. Is this also with the face scanning? It seems like you can augment it as well, and it's not just virtual, but you can actually change everything. Is that a true statement?
You mean change everything about the face?
Yeah, so the face or the comet or anything you put within the virtual space.
Yeah, to a certain extent. There's the nice thing about Unity is that the asset store is filled with tools that let you modify and change and break and tear and slice, any 3D mesh that you want. So it's the way that we usually work is we have an idea, and then we go and see if there's a possible way of kind of executing on that idea. Usually it's the Unity asset store. But for our needs for this, it's been pretty simple. It's been a matter of taking the faces and putting them inside of a kind of a leather helmet and with wires and stuff, and that's about as close as we've come to augmenting anything. But yeah, because it's such an open game engine, stuff like that's certainly possible.
All right, awesome. So you said the ultimate goal is you want to be the greatest esport kind of platform in the world. Do you have a timing for that, when you want to be that, or when the first esport event will happen within your platform?
So if this partnership that I can't talk about goes through, we're going to start having VRcades pop up all over the country. And initially they're going to be single-player VRcades, and thanks to the power of the internet, we'll be able to network them. And this is something that actually this potential client brought up, saying that we would really like to create a network of these systems by which users in other states can compete with one another. And that's going to be the first kind of iteration of this. There's a lot of things that you have to think about when you are able to completely immerse someone like this and give them as much freedom as being able to run around wirelessly. Things like Where does the capture volume actually end? What happens if they keep running? What happens if the system loses track of them because they got scared and tried to run backwards and they hit one of the little ropes that hold them in, or a lot of stuff like that. So there's a couple logistical questions in terms of how intense do we want to make it, and how competitive can we be in the spaces that we're offered. But there's, in addition to this client, there's several others who instantly see this potential as, let's just build a really, really big space. In fact, let's build 2 of them and let's just network them together, because it's very easy to see how this can turn into something huge. So hopefully early next year, we'd start seeing not only VRcades popping up, but also VRcades that allow users to interact with one another in a competitive or cooperative way, either locally or over the network.
Awesome. It doesn't seem like we have any other questions from the crowd, so I guess that's about it. But thank you a lot for giving us your time, and that was a really awesome speech, and I think everyone here can agree with that. So thank you very much for coming to VirtualCon, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come.
Awesome, thanks, and thanks everyone.
All right, bye everybody.